What's up, folks? Welcome back to another edition of SHU Outdoors. My name is Mick. I'm your host, and today is going to be episode 3 of the federal prison system versus a New York State prison system. And it's completely two totally different systems. I did this series because I really wanted to highlight the fact that the feds, more often than not, get it totally wrong. The difference is that the feds just will stop talking about things, and because they control the media, all kind of things go on in federal prison that the average public doesn't ever even know happens. All kind of vicious attacks and all kind of stuff, and nobody even never knows it if it ever occurred. So that was the main reason why I did this series. I got a couple of comments on my last video, and I want to share it with my viewing public. This is from Keith-NM3UF. It was 5 hours ago. Sing Sing is located north of New York City. I gave him a thumbs up, and he is correct. It's about 35-40 miles or so north of New York City in Austin, New York, which I thoroughly explained that in my video. I appreciate you clarifying for me anyway, Keith. And the same guy left another comment. Federal prison is generally have stricter security than state prisons. But I totally disagree with that, Keith. I've been in New York State maximum security prisons, and I've been in federal maximum security prisons. In New York State, if you're in a maximum security prison, Keith, you're locked in your cell unless you have somewhere to go. So, you could go to the yard, or you could go to the mess hall, or you could go to a program, etc. But when you come back, to your house, the housing unit is the cell. There is no day room to hang out in the daytime. So if you're not somewhere conducting, official sanctioned activity, like you're in your cell. And the feds in a United States penitentiary, they unlock the doors every morning at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock on weekends and the holidays, and you're out all day long until 4:30 count, man. Okay? Sitting in a day room plotting and scheming all day long, and then they lock you down from about 4:30 till about 6 o'clock, do the evening count, and then let you back out till about 9 o'clock at night. Every jail, some jails lock it down at 8:45, some at 9:30, some at 9 o'clock. But, you're out all day in this day room plotting and scheming and scamming and doing whatever you do. And you got 2 officers in there, and they got mace, but they don't have no firearms or definitely no club. Because if officers were carrying billy clubs in New York in a federal penitentiary, it would not take very long for those billy clubs to be taken from them, and they would be beat, who knows how bad, with those same clubs. What they do is they have 2 in a pair. They wear stab-proof vests, and they have mace and obviously a radio they can call for backup. Most of the time, that's enough, but not always. I mean, if you get a whole bunch of rowdy gang members rumbling and they got weapons, would you run up in the middle of them if you were a CO making $20 an hour or $30 an hour? I wouldn't. I mean, you know what I mean? Because no matter what the state does for my family, after I'm dust and bones, it ain't going to bring me back because I decided to take on some guy doing 5 life sentences without parole, and he had a shank about this long, and he does 300 burpees a day. I wouldn't run up in between him and whoever he was doing that to. I'd probably say, hey, stop, maybe spray some mace and hit the radio, but I wouldn't try to be a Superman. So I totally disagree with you. I think New York State prisons, the maximum security prisons, are actually more secure than federal maximum security prisons. I've been in both. Am I an expert? Well, I mean, what qualifies as an expert? Somebody who went to a college who's never spent one day in prison and tries to get on sites like, say, Sunrise Film and diagnose everything a prisoner does, or a guy who actually lived it and experienced it firsthand. I say I'm more qualified, but, you know, that's just one man's opinion. The real difference between United States penitentiaries and any given state prison, and I'm talking about maximum security facilities here, is that it's the clientele that is being housed in those facilities. For example, they got a policy down here in Florida. I've never been to Florida State Prison, and I have no intentions of ever going to Florida State Prison because I don't commit crimes anymore. I'm retired. That's why I have a YouTube channel and I talk about things, because if I was still living a criminal lifestyle, you would never know who I was. You would never know anything about me, and I wouldn't be on YouTube. But the big difference between a federal penitentiary and really any state maximum security prison is, again, the type of clientele who are housed there. Now, down here in Florida, for example, they got a prison rule or whatever that says you have to be clean shaven or whatever they got going on down here. And if you don't want to comply, they'll hold you down and physically cut your hair. Now, this is what I was able to research and come up with. I'm pretty sure it's somewhat accurate, but maybe not 100% accurate. You know what would happen to you in a federal penitentiary to the staff who attempted to do that? They would all be targeted by the prisoner gangs, and they would be viciously assaulted with weapons. It would be looked upon as the same thing as a SA. You are attempting to force something onto my body that I do not agree with, and there will be severe, immediate consequences. And nobody in those facilities really care about the consequences, because you get so deeply involved in the gang culture, and most of the guys in there, I mean, you're lucky to have 10 years in a federal penitentiary. That's considered like a skid bit. So you're dealing with dudes who ain't never getting out, and they're hardcore gangbangers of every ethnicity, every racial group, hardcore gangbangers, which means they specialize in violence and chaos, and they've been doing it their whole life. And it's not like a talking point that they just talk about when they're around their friends or they're doing a YouTube video. This is a way of life. So, I mean, that's the main difference. If you was to even attempt something like that, when you get arrested by the feds, they used to try that probably 50 years ago, but when you get arrested by the feds, you don't have to get no haircut or none of that, homeboy. They're going to come and get you from your county jail or your holding. They're going to put you to Oklahoma City or Atlanta or whatever other little intake type process they put you through. They don't test you or none of that. They don't give you no haircut. What they do is they put you in a line, they strip search you, give you a federal prison issue of gear, and okay, now you're in the show. Then when you get to whatever prison you get to, then you'll see some doctors and go down to the school and get up with your case manager. So they don't do that ahead of time. They do it after you're already in the system, where most state prisons have a receiving facility, and all that happens up front. That's the biggest difference, is the type of clientele you're dealing with in a federal maximum security prison. Like if they tried some, we're passing like a haircutting policy. You got people with dreads to their feet. I mean, and not just one. I mean, a lot of people, and a lot of people with beards to their belly. You know, they've been growing for 20 years. You hold them down and cut that, and I can promise you, even if you lock him in the hole, his homeboys will seek every one of those officers out, and the lieutenant and the sergeant that supervised it, and probably viciously attack them with weapons. So the next round of officers who think about doing that will think long and hard about it. You know, I'm not gonna be the one who holds this guy down and cuts his hair, because I know what happened to the last crew of guys who tried to sign up for that. That's what would happen. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just giving it to you real and raw here on SHU Outdoors. It's named SHU Outdoors for a reason, man. I did a tremendous amount of hold time. You know, months and months and months, year, lockdowns. I don't even know exactly how much, but I know it equaled up to years. So when I started this channel, I said the perfect name for it is SHU Outdoors. You see, in the general population, in the general public, right, there's this idea that when you go to prison becomes your problem. And if you're coming from the surface world, shall we say, the world full of light, well, yeah, that's probably true, and that's probably the way you would see things. But when you grew up in the streets and you grew up on the dark side and you grew up poor in poverty, you don't look at it like that. Every day I did in prison, it was never prison is my problem. No, homeboy, I am the prison's problem, okay? I never agreed to follow none of your rules, none of your regulations. None of that shit means nothing to me. I may follow them, you know what I mean? If it's convenient, or I may not follow them. I didn't agree to that, you know what I mean? Like I didn't agree to none of these laws and all these rules and shit you passed. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why, like, I'm just like of the opinion that, you know, people are falsely accused for things all the time. And if any state, man, ever tried to frame me up and send me back to prison for some shit, and when I actually do not commit crimes and I'm a law-abiding citizen and I'm a tax-paying citizen, I rehabilitated myself. The system didn't have nothing to do with that. I did that myself. But, you know, my take on it would be, I'm pushing 60 years old, even though I'm pretty good health for 60 years old. But I mean, you got to be realistic. None of us are going to make it out of this life alive. So I would look at it like, you put me here, you framed me up for some nonsense, and you gave me X amount of time. And especially if it was a sentence I knew I couldn't see past. Look, man, I would cause so many problems for that prison system, and I don't care what you could think you could do about it, because I'm not involved in that lifestyle no more. But I didn't forget how to do what I used to do, and so not only am I still capable, if push come to shove, of doing exactly the kind of stuff I used to do, I just don't do that no more. I'm a married man, and you know, my wife and my loved ones deserve better than that out of me. So that was really my motivating factor. Man, I know how to surround myself with like-minded individuals. So my goal, my number one purpose would be is to cause as much problems for you as humanly possible. When it was all said and done, you'd be like, damn, we wish we would never sent that guy to prison. Because, I mean, not only was he a huge problem, he was a mega problem, and he started this whole off the hook organization that only has a handful of members, you know, and is just capable of creating immense chaos and mayhem. That would be my position, because you could have a lot of different ways of looking at anything. This is my way of looking at it. If you put a uniform on and something horrible happens, you signed up for that, man. You can say, well, I was out here serving my community, and maybe that is your perspective. I've seen way too many videos of the police doing horrible things to just believe everything they say because a policeman said it. No, I need to see evidence to substantiate what you're saying. And it's the same way for a bad guy. If you're out here up to something and something horrible happens, don't cry about it if something bad happens, because in effect, you signed up for that. You know, if it's one thing if you get drafted into the Army, but if you're some gun-ho type and you say, hey, man, I really want to go fight old Donald Trump's war for him, and you rush out to the recruiter and you go over here to Iran or one of these other places and you get your arms and legs blowed off, I mean, that's horrible. I'm not happy that happened to you, but don't cry about it because you signed up for that. You said, hey, man, I want to go fight your wars for you, old Trump boy. I can't hardly wait to get over there, okay? And you went over there, and them Iranians gave you more of a fight than you anticipated. And either you didn't make it back home, or you did, and you made it back home half the man you was when you went. But you signed up for that, homeboy. Again, I'm not happy that happened to you, but that, and this whole thought process that I just laid down to you right here is the way your average federal maximum security prisoner is going to see things. I am not your problem. You're not my problem. I'm your problem. Okay? And that's just the way it's going to be handled, Each prison system, each state prison system, it operates within the lexicon that the prisoners that are housed there allow it to be operated in. I mean, you're like Louisiana State Prison. They got these dudes out in the field picking turnips and cotton and watermelons and shit. They would never be able to get that off in California or New York or some shit like that. It just locked the whole jail down indefinitely. Okay, we don't give a damn if we don't never come out to sale. I'm not picking none of your damn cabbage, your lettuce, your cucumbers. If you wait for me to pick them, that shit's gonna rot. It ain't even never gonna get planted. But if it did get planted, the shit'll rot in the field. Okay, and you still gotta feed me. Like I said, you're not my problem. I'm your problem. So the real reason why that happens in Louisiana and these other places that it happens and stuff is because the prisoners allow it to happen. It's the same reason why, I've heard these guys in certain states saying, well, the white guys couldn't do nothing because they was outnumbered. They would have immediately been crushed. Well, obviously, there's no white guys in there to realize, well, yeah, you'll outnumber us 100, 50 to 1 or 60 to 1. So we'll just take 5 or 6 of us and we'll just get swords and we won't have no arguments with you or nothing. And we'll just run up in a crowd of you and just start stabbing you. And keep stabbing you until either we go down, you go down, the police start shooting, whatever, catch you slipping. That's the way you deal with when you're vastly outnumbered and you really have no wins. You just go on, like of a better word, a mission, a kamikaze mission, understanding I might go down, but I'll take as many of you to hell with me as possible. And when you put, that's fear, okay? Fear is always much more powerful than respect. You see, respect can change. It can take you a lifetime to earn respect, all right? And respect is very important when you're dealing with your friends and your loved ones and people you care about, because that's a different relationship. But when you're dealing with people that are violent and are bullies, I don't need you to respect me. I don't need that. What I would much prefer that you fear me, okay? You fear me because if I'm there, there could be 20 of y'all, okay, or more, and y'all might eventually do me dirty, but I'll run right in the middle of you with a sword and just stab 4 or 5 or 6 of you before you even realize what's going on, or at least 2 or 3, and hurt you real bad. And after the incident's over and y'all go and discuss it, and we're all in the hole and whatever, you're going to really not like me even more, but in the back of your mind, you'll fear me, okay? And you'll fear everybody that runs with me, all right? Because that's the way we give it up. That's the way we get down. We're past the consequences. The consequences don't matter no more, because even if I don't get in any more trouble and follow every rule, if I get 20 years or some, like football type of number like that, I'll never see the light of day anyway. I mean, how long can you live? You know what I mean? So it don't matter. And that's just my whole approach to life. Like, I do this video, I do YouTube, SHU Outdoors, man, and I just keep it raw. But really, in my day-to-day life, I'm a pretty mellow, cool dude, man. I'm humble. Like I said, man, I did whatever I did. I paid my debt to society, and I moved on. But the way a prison system runs really reflects the kind of clientele it's dealing with. And that's really just the bottom line. I mean, like a federal prison in a maximum United States penitentiary. You don't have to work. They ain't even going to try to make you work. Well, you want a guy to work in the mess hall that I'll tip the whole damn vat of food over? You know what? I'll go to work. You're going to make me work in the mess hall? Okay. I'll wait for them to cook lunch, get the whole vat full of stew or whatever they're going to cook. I go over there, tilt it, and put the whole shit on the floor. Oh, you're getting big trouble in if you do that, buddy. You didn't think I knew I was going to get in big fucking trouble when I did it? You won't never call me to work in this goddamn mess hall again, will you? You put me in the hole for a while. I don't care about that. You put your hands on me. You try to beat me up while I got handcuffs on. If I catch you or any other staff member later on down the line, I'm going to hit your ass up. And I don't care what they do to me about it. You will regret the day you put your hands on me to try to cut my beard off. You'll regret the day you put your hands on me for trying to work, trying to make me work. I'm not your slave, and I don't give a damn about you. And that's just the way it's got to be. If the police rig somebody up or whatever, and they didn't care about their family when they rigged them up. They didn't care about their loved ones when they rigged them up and put a charge on them they know they didn't fucking commit. When the judge sentenced them on fabricated evidence and flimsy evidence to some astronomical prison sentence, the system or the judge didn't care about that all their loved ones' family. They didn't care about none of that. All of a sudden, the guy you rigged up is supposed to be the one who follows the rules and cares. Damn you, okay? That's just the way it's got to be, homie. You go hard, we go harder. You go harder than that, we go even harder than that. Because like I said, unless you're a Superman and you're truly immune to lead and steel, like that doesn't affect you, you can just walk through it. You can get touched, you can get hurt, you can get beat, you can get crushed. But that is a tool. There's always a flip side of that coin. You have to know when you go into that, it's subject to happen to you too. So, I mean, it's on like Donkey Kong, man. I mean, none of us might not make it out of this shit alive, and none of us can cry about it, homie. That's the thing. You're going to be a warrior, be a warrior. Don't be a little crybaby. You put the uniform on, you decided to do this for a living, and if you got to do something horrible to somebody, and that's a part of the job. You got to live with that, even if you made a bad call. And if someone does something horrible to you, don't be a little crybaby about it. Cry, oh, no. How many people did you frame up? How many women did you pull out of cars and beat up and mace when it wasn't necessary? But I ain't got no mercy for you. You signed up for it. So stop being a little crybaby. That's just the way I see it. So you don't have to work in the United States Penitentiary. You don't have to cut your hair. You don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. When I say get up, be suited and booted, that's not because the prison's going to try to make you do that shit. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? It's because everybody in here is in a gang, okay? So as a part of the responsibility to your gang, you have to be suited and booted. And if one of my homeboys wants to use a shower, I'm going to go and maybe not stand right in front of the shower where it looks obvious, you know, like I'm posted up like a security guard, but I'm not going to be more than 2 or 3 feet away from that shower, okay? Because if something goes down, I'm going to be out here suited and booted, strapped up. I'm going to hold my homie down, okay? So that's what I mean. You had to be up at 6 o'clock. You go to the hole, you don't have to, you got to shower right in your cell now. You know what I mean? You got a cellie. You can kick it for a while, whatever. You know what I mean? If you don't like him, just beat him up, or he beats you up and you get another cellie. You know what I mean? That's just the way the game is played. So, you know, you get all these alleged experts who's talking about this and that, and he had no feelings. No, wrong, homeboy. I love animals. If I had the money, I'd have an animal rescue, and I'd take in stray dogs and cats and show them love and care about them and feed them and all that, okay? So I'm a very gentle, kind, caring person. But that is reserved for people that got that coming. If you out here and you're doing whatever you do and you put yourself in a warrior's position, you're a cute little girl with a nice bottom, and, you know, I mean, when I say about little girl, let me clarify. You're a lovely young woman, and you could have been a model or whatever, but you chose to put a uniform on and be a warrior. Well, you're not a woman no more. You got a uniform on, so I don't see you as a woman. I see you as a warrior, okay? Now, if you're a woman and you're living, you're just begging for milk for your children or something, yeah, you're a woman, you're non-combatant, and I got no problem with you. You got nothing to worry about from me. So, no, I see things exactly like any reasonable warrior would see things. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. So stop deluding yourself and stop getting on here and crybabying. You thought you was going to go over to Afghanistan or wherever and do all these horrible things, and you was going to come back home and you weren't going to be affected? I mean, you think the human mind is not designed to take a whole bunch of trauma and then flip a switch and then go right back just to being a normal, regular guy. That ain't the way it works. Whether if you're coming out of a horrible maximum security prison, a war zone, whatever, it lingers around and it affects you. So, again, if you got any questions about anything I said, or maybe you would like a more thorough answer, hit me up in the comments. I read them and I will respond if it's appropriate. For the most part, I think this is the third episode, just a little wrap up, and we'll move on. Maybe on the next episode I'll do series number 2 of Jackie, the most rawest prisoner I've ever met in my entire existence. So until next time, stay up. Peace.